Hi, Paul Slackus, Good News Broadcast. This is an exciting day for me. I'm here with Dan Burstein. Hi, Dan.
Great to see you.
Great seeing you. Actually, I've spoken with Dan in the past. I spoke to Dan under on a book. We're going to be talking about one of Dan's latest books. This was Secrets of Mary Magdalene, and congratulations with that.
Thank you. We had a great experience with that. It was a fascinating intellectual exercise as well as eye-opening, and got great response all over the world, actually, with that book.
Well, Dan is he's a secrets kind of a guy, but today you're going to learn all about his secrets. Now, I don't know about all of them.
Not my secrets.
How about the Secrets of the Code? Now, this one was a best-selling, big-time best-selling for a long time.
Yeah. We really started what we call our Secrets series with Secrets of the Code, which became the world's best-selling guidebook to the Da Vinci Code. I stopped counting at about 30 different guidebooks to the Da Vinci Code that have been published from all points of view, and some from religious people, some from secular people, some from the history angle, some from the art angle. But we did our Secrets of the Code, which was meant to touch on the many, many issues in the Da Vinci Code, including the religious issues, but also the history and art history and architecture and codes and so forth, and just had a great experience with that book. That book it's in its own right on the New York Times bestseller list for 6 months, while the Da Vinci Code was also on the New York Times fiction bestseller list. And after that, we did a guidebook to Dan Brown's Angels and Demons, which was actually his prequel to the Da Vinci Code that came out a few years earlier, but became a bestseller once Da Vinci Code hit the big time. And now they're making a movie out of Angels and Demons, as they did out of Da Vinci Code, and we're re-releasing our Secrets of Angels and Demons book to coincide with the Tom Hanks movie, which will be out in May of 2009. So we've done all these different books, and we call them secrets, not really because they're concealing or elucidating some deep, dark secrets, but a very smart marketing friend of mine once told me that the most powerful word in the English language, if you want to get people to pay attention, was secrets. And as a result, we have...
Who's your friend? Don't tell those people about the secrets.
Right, exactly. We have capitalized on that, and what we really mean by secrets is taking the many viewpoints and the many ideas that have come out about controversial cultural subjects and presenting them in a way that people can get involved in the debate and the discussion, learn things they didn't know before, understand how these different cultural phenomena are being discussed from different points of view today, and join the debate. So we're on our websites. We encourage people to respond and to get into the debate, and we're going to talk today about Secrets of 24, the TV show based on the TV show 24. Jack Bauer, Kiefer Sutherland. I'm sure our audience has seen it and has feelings about it. And our book, Secrets of 24, is about the real life issues that motivate the TV show.
Okay, let me just add one secret that I think, I don't think it's a secret, but I think it's true with the Da Vinci, just because it's something that someone said to me is true. I think it's true, but I never actually measured myself out. Da Vinci had the famous picture of the arms out like this and the legs, right?
Vitruvian Man.
Who?
Vitruvian Man.
That guy. And so, and supposedly, from the toes to the top of the head, to the tips of the fingers, or to the other tips of the fingers, equal each other.
Well,
is this a right secret or a wrong secret? In fact, we have a game show here now.
The human body is remarkably proportional and remarkably symmetric. What's in Leonardo da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, which is actually based on the work of Vitruvius, who was a Roman era, thousands of years ago, scholar, is an idealized version. So the perfect human being, those proportions exist perfectly. Of course, we're not perfect, and all of us are likely to be slightly different than the ideal.
All right. Okay. Well, now I wonder why my diet wasn't working. Okay. So, All right, so now, okay, Secrets of 24, okay. I'll have to say that when I asked people, I asked my daughter's husband, I asked my buddies, I asked my friends about 24. All I would say was 24. Do you know about 24? All I would say is, do you know about? And I would say probably out of many things that I've asked my friends, this has taken on a reaction. Yeah. Let's put it that way. A powerhouse of thoughts, and it's. I've learned immense amount because I actually haven't ever seen The Secret. I haven't seen 24. Okay, I don't watch that much television, even though I've been in the business 36 years. And somehow I wanted to get to do it before I met you, but I figured, you know what? I'm like the audience that might not have seen it. So this book is wonderful for those that have seen it and haven't seen it, I feel. But I have read through the book. So tell us. Let's start off. What is the 24? It's a television show, right?
24 is a very intense, gripping, dramatic TV show. It launched in 2001, in November of 2001. Was filmed and in the can before 9/11.
Way before, wasn't it? The 90s?
No, in the summer before before 9/11. They had filmed the show and they had planned to launch it actually the week of 9/11, and then of course all the TV shows were canceled. So when it launched in November of 2001, 2 months after 9/11, and it was based. The first episode involves a terrorist blowing up an airplane and parachuting out of an airplane in California to attempt an assassination on a black senator who was running for president. There were a lot of resonances with this show and the times we were living in the post 9/11 weeks and months. The show has now been on for 6 seasons. It was canceled last year owing to the writer's strike, so in January of 2009, the 7th season begins. Each season is built around a 24-hour time clock, so each episode is supposed to be 1 hour in a 24-hour day. Now, these days turn out to be of epic proportions, where the world quakes and turns and terrorists try to carry out evil deeds, and Jack Bauer, the special agent played by Kiefer Sutherland, has to save the world from catastrophe, from a nuclear device being blown up, from a chemical attack, from a biological attack, an assassination attempt against a president, infighting within the government, and the plots all come out of our headlines and out of real-life events. The show became very controversial because it was so realistic and uses techniques of torture and interrogation so frequently that it polarized many people in terms of whether this. There was an argument even made by commanders in Iraq that their soldiers were watching 24 and thinking that you could use these techniques that are shown on television to torture people and get information out of them. The creators of the TV show have been, often pointed out that it's just a TV show, it's just a piece of fiction, but the resemblances between things that happen in the TV show, the African American actor Dennis Haysbert, who played President Palmer, thinks of himself in some ways as having opened the door for Barack Obama to be a serious presidential candidate. So there are all these resonances with things we experience in daily life. The show is very compressed, it's very intense psychologically, it's very dramatic, and people have very strong reactions to it. One of the things that's interesting is there are a lot of people who consider themselves humanists, who hate torture, who would be the first to say that prisoners in Guantanamo should be released, who love watching this show. It's amazing how liberals and conservatives find something interesting in this show alike. So it's a favorite show of Dick Cheney, but it's a favorite show of Barbra Streisand also. Bill Clinton said it was one of his two favorite shows of all time, the other being I Love Lucy. And John McCain liked the show so much that he asked for and got a walk-on part as a messenger coming in to deliver a message to an important cabinet meeting depicted on the TV show. So it brings together people from the right and the left, liberals and conservatives, around these very intense and dramatic stories. And one of the things it does, we talk about the war on terror, but we know that we're very divorced from it. We got soldiers fighting in Iraq. Everybody says they support the troops. Everyone has their feelings about the war. But in our daily lives, we are rarely confronted with the moral choices that have to do with the war on terror. And this show compresses, in a very fictionalized form, you have to make this choice this moment, Paul, between your wife and your country. And you've got to decide, are you going to protect her, or are you going to allow the terrorists to force you into detonating a nuclear device and blowing up the country? The intensity of that emotional choice, which is replicated in longer-term moral choices we face. Do we want to suspend civil liberties? Do we want to relax civil liberties because we believe we're at war with an enemy? How should enemy combatants be treated? Should they be entitled to the same protections? These very profound moral questions that our society faces are presented in quick, condensed moments, but it gives you an insight into the feelings and the emotional charge behind those issues.
The book, Secrets of 24, there was one article, so I'll just use this. There's conversations with a lot of brilliant people in the book, and one of the conversations with one of the brilliant people is with Alvin Toffler, and Alvin Toffler is Future Shock. Okay, and so Alvin, the question was specifically, I'll just go to this because it was torture, and what he thought about torture in the show, and torture in general. And the one comment that I'll never forget that he expressed was something that was said to him by a Canadian warrior who is at war. I guess maybe it was the Second World War. I forgot.
World War II, yeah.
Okay, World War II, who was trying to tell a group of people that the Germans were on their way, and he was trying to tell them to disperse and get away, and that, trying to help them in this treacherous situation. And because either, I don't know whether they didn't believe or language or whatever, he knew in 5 minutes they were going to be coming, and it didn't happen. So it's a powerful statement to say sometimes so what is it? Do we know a way to save people under duress situations? What do we do? How do the people know that it's really in earnest and meant for the best? And so these are very complicated issues,
questions, right? Yeah. And Bill Clinton, in fact, has talked about what he calls the Jack Bauer moment, which means the day when a president or an elected official is going to have to decide, do we torture someone because we have to get information that is relevant to saving thousands of lives or tens of thousands of lives? If there's an opportunity to assassinate someone we believe is a terrorist, do we make that decision? How do we make that decision? So even the pop culture reference to the Jack Bauer character has become something that political leaders, responsible political leaders, talk about and debate. There was one of the first Republican presidential debates when they had all the candidates early in the 2008 election process, and Tom Tancredo was considered a viable candidate at that moment, and he was asked the Jack Bauer question. Okay, you've caught some terrorist suspects, and a nuclear bomb has been detonated in a shopping mall in the United States, and there's word that more are going to be detonated in other cities. Do you torture these people? What do you do? And his answer was, I call Jack Bauer, who, of course, is a fictional character. And incidentally, Kiefer Sutherland, who plays Jack Bauer, has taken pains on several occasions to point out that he personally opposes torture and doesn't think it's effective and doesn't think it should be used in these same situations that he has depicted using torture in the TV show.
He's a great actor, too. He comes from a great actor. I was in Donald Sutherland's house one time in California doing a show on public television. Another great actor. There's a lot of talent. And I see the cast and the producers. I guess Maureen Dodd, who is a writer for the New York Times, another one of the people in the book. So, in essence, it has short, which is my favorite kind of book, a little short, either interviews or essays, commentaries
by many people who are involved in politics, intelligence agencies. We interviewed several former CIA people who talked about, the degree to which the 24 TV show reflects real life intelligence issues. We talked to weapons experts and people who are involved in trying to eliminate the nuclear threat, about to what degree, do we face dangers from dirty bombs and other kinds of terrorist devices. We talked to the real-life people in Southern California who have a joint task force between the FBI and the CIA and the LA County Police to try to know about terrorist events before they happen. Maureen Dowd's comment, you mentioned Maureen.
We're going to talk about the flag.
Well, Maureen Dowd's comment, which I just love, was, the difference between George Bush in the last years of the war in Iraq and Jack Bauer, the fictional TV character, was that they both apparently had disregard for the Constitution, but in Jack Bauer's case, he was successful. That's an interesting way to look at things.
The flag part of it, I think it was her saying that the producers, now I've been in this TV thing for a long time, received the flag of the United States. That was from, was it 9/11 or was it from the war in Iraq?
I think it was from a plane that went down in Iraq.
Yeah. So the production company behind this, and the producers and the showrunner and the people, the team, and you also have a lot of the actors in here. So for you personally, all right, for you to be on this project, okay, the code is it was a couple weeks ago. This is sort of like current history, okay? We're sort of more. Not that we're probably not living the code, but we are sort of living this. This is like, so just Barack Obama likes this book. McCain likes it. He went on to the Daily Show or something talking about it. This is a lot of contemporary, a woman president, I think, and you said a new pilot, the new first 2-hour special is coming out in November, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I mean, to be involved with this one, probably even Mary Magdalene, she was a couple weeks ago too. So how does it feel to be involved with this current kind of story?
Well, it's really interesting for me. First of all, I love the show. Okay, so my family has gathered around. They talk about appointment television. Most people, record things or they, don't watch things religiously. But 24 has been a TV show that even though people could record it, they like to gather around with their friends and family and watch it on Sunday nights in real time. And the show itself takes place.
I don't know how to use a VCR.
Real time. And even with the maddening TV commercials, although I must say it's much better to get the full season DVDs and watch them all the way through.
That's what people tell me.
But we've had these experiences. My mother-in-law, who's in her 80s, had never seen the show, and we were vacationing in Martha's Vineyard, and we sat down to explain what this show was all about and show her an episode. And after the end of one episode, it was, can I see another one and another one and another one? And pretty soon it's 2 o'clock in the morning, and we had to tell my mother-in-law it was time to go to bed. And she couldn't stay up to watch another one. But it has this visceral and almost addictive quality. In fact, several people, psychologists and pop culture experts in Secrets of 24, talk about why it's so addictive. So I'm a fan to begin with. So it was a great pleasure to get to go on the set and meet the actors and talk to the writers and understand how the plots are developed and to see some of the filming done. But I'm also a person who's fascinated by politics and by our world and by the rational and irrational forces in our world. And I have a lot of intellectual questions and thoughts and ideas about the war on terror and about what's happened in America in the last decade, in the Bush years, as well as in these years when we've been fighting these very unusual and difficult enemies and these unusual wars that are different from the history of warfare certainly in the 20th century and the 19th century. So I got the chance to ask my questions to real experts about the threats we face and about how to address those threats, and to learn about the public mind and how the public mind interprets some of these things. And really looking through what was, at the time we did the book, 6 seasons of 24, with the 7th season about to start in January, a TV show that began right after 9/11. It really is a microcosm of all we have been through as a nation in these last years, pro and con, the threat and the response to the threat. And in some ways, I think the new season, where Jack Bauer is seeking redemption and has left America and gone to Africa to try to work in a boys' school in an orphanage and help people and get away from his past, torturing people and so on, is a little bit of a referendum on where the nation is these many years after the launch of 9/11 and the experiences in relationship to it.
Let me ask you one. I ask this to a lot of people, and especially when I think someone has some good insight here, and maybe can share it, and I can learn something as well. I ask. I'm a one world guy, and I believe that possibly a good way to consider for the world to manage itself is to have one world leadership, and no countries and no boundaries, and seven Gandhis running the world or something like this or whatever. What do you think about something like this? I mean, it would probably put the show out of business, but the thing here put a lot of people as well. But do you have any thought about that?
Well, I think, all political thoughts and all thoughts about how to govern and how to organize society and culture need to start with a lot of humility and an understanding that we were once, hundreds of thousands of years ago, a one-world tribe, right? And most of our human history has been as a common tribe, solving problems, evolving, facing challenges. Now, that's sort of stopped happening sometime at the sort of beginning of what we could call history as opposed to prehistory. And then you started having warring tribes and terrible things happening, and governments and kingdoms and religions and major differences of opinion and complexity to managing the human society. So there's a sense in which very primitive peoples had much better instincts and much better common sense than we have today as a very sophisticated, evolved society. There have been a lot of one-world governments. There was a period of time, certainly under church influence, when major parts of Europe effectively had a common government and a common set of beliefs and common set of values. Certainly, in modern times, communist countries have had sort of within their country a very highly unified society, and being highly unified is not necessarily a positive thing. Where we will end up, I think we're we're in the very early process of evolving what the right political and social software to run a world as complex as this one without destroying ourselves may be. But I think there are very positive signs that we are in the post-national era. You look at what's happening in Europe with the European Community, European Union. You look at some of the other regions of the world where national borders are becoming less intense. You look at diversity in America and the vast changes in our society, and for all the problems and no one can deny the reality of racial discrimination and racism and ethnic differences and religious differences. Amazing. If you would have asked people 50 years ago or 100 years ago, could America evolve successfully given the kinds of diversity we have in our society today, people would have been pessimistic about that. When you see how far we've come, not that we don't have a long way to go, I think that's a very positive indicator that we're on that road. I don't think we're going to get one world government anytime soon. I'm not sure that's positive. But I think 2,000 years from now, if we survive as a species and don't blow ourselves up, we're likely to be living under institutions that are much more integrated and much more common in viewing the planet as everyone's shared property than we would guess today.
Okay, well, I'm pulling for the DNA, the telomeres. That's going to get us another 100 years or so. And between our life, my grandson's going to see all this nice thing here. My last question, and I only saying that, I would love to speak to you longer and more, but the stock market went up 1,000 points today, and today's Columbus Day. A lot of wild things here, and I could love to speak to you longer, but right now let's introduce you to our audience again. But I also like to find out what's good news for you. What is good news in your life that you find is?
Well, I think what the most interesting thing to me about the project of life is that we're living in an era and in a time, mainly through scientific discovery, where we are actually learning some real information that may help us understand what life is and what we're doing here on this planet and what our purpose, if any, is, and what the arc of our lifetime, which is getting ever longer, is supposed to be devoted to. And I think the idea that they're finally getting the super collider working in Europe, we're going to learn some fundamentally new things about how physics and how subatomic particles actually interact. I think it's fascinating to be living in a time where we can have a little window into the real meaning of life, the origins of life, the origins of humanity. So I find that very, very exciting. I also think when we look at all the bad news out there in the world, we need to have perspective. The problems are immense. The suffering in our world is immense. The challenges are immense. But if you look at how the world operated for much of the last 2,000 years in terms of the loss of life in war and disease and plagues and dictators and tyrants and invasions of countries and the things that people died from that they can be cured from today, we're really living in a much more peaceful and stable world, even though our perception of it is that it's not very peaceful and that it's very unstable. But really, by comparison to how history has unfolded, we're almost living in what I would call a blessed time by comparison.
Okay, this is my lucky day. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
You have a lot to speak on. The website is called Secrets of 24.com.
Secrets of 24.com.
The new series is coming out in Series 8.
The TV series will have a prequel in November, and the season 7 begins in January of 2009.
And you saw the prequel already? You saw the...
It's good.
It's good?
Yeah.
All right, we got it here. It's good.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, Paul Sagas for Good News. Thank you.